score! And they finally kicked it through!
Welcome into Inside LAFC, the Max and Vince podcast. We are back here at the Performance Center in glorious Eastern Los Angeles. Got a nice reaction from our home-based podcast because we really dug into the Galaxy game. Everyone felt very prepared for a very nerve-wracking 90 minutes, which turned to a very glorious 90 minutes.
We did. We'll try our best because we have to talk about the Galaxy game. It was huge. It's such a big result. But we'll do our best to do a very good preview. Austin, what I was about to say when you said we're back here, I wonder if everyone was like, oh, no.
No, because we were at home.
Oh, no. You guys should be at home. You should be previewing the game from home. Don't do anything different.
Last week, close to the game, was Thursday. We didn't want to be here, didn't want to interrupt anything, so we said let's do it from home.
Because the guys love us. They like to joke with us.
They come by and say hello. They offer us coffee. They invite us to concerts. That last part's not true.
You invite them to concerts.
Yes, I invite them.
Max sits in the lobby way going, hey, does anyone want to go to the Hollywood Bowl to see Oingo Boingo or whoever?
I was this close to going with Carlos Vela to see Luis Miguel at the Hollywood Bowl. Team Security Paul can attest to that. This close. Didn't happen.
But Team Security Paul's probably the one that shut it down, right?
No.
Because you know what's going to happen.
I couldn't get tickets.
You're going to shut it down.
I could have got Carlos. You got to use your swerve here to get the tickets. But so what we did was good. We stayed out of the hair, and then we did it from home so we could really focus in on. But we're back here, and they have all the way till Sunday. Sorry about hitting you there, Vince. By the way, please like, subscribe, download, tell a friend. You know the deal. Hit the like button, too, if you're watching on YouTube. The numbers have been really good, and we really appreciate you, and that's why we do it here. We have the whole setup, and that's why it can be a little distracting to players. But go ahead.
Is that your roundabout way of saying that we're not prepared?
No, we're prepared
We're
because we have a real big setup here. We're taking up the entire concourse at the Performance Center. And then we will certainly look ahead, and we will look back. But there's a full week, so that's really encouraging for this LAFC team as they prepare for Austin FC. Ilia Sanchez will be joining us here as well, so we're very excited about that. And he was fantastic. You know what I loved about what he did against the Galaxy? Every time he needed a calming influence, this ball was bouncing, he'd let it come to his head. He'd head it down right to someone's foot. He must have done that 8 times.
I mean, he's the balance.
So,
He stitches the team together. Also, he's a great podcast guest, and if there was anyone that could help us understand what happened in that Galaxy game while looking ahead to the Austin game, it's got to be Ilie.
It sure does. So let's go back to the Galaxy game. Everyone's still, we could see it on social media, everyone's still very excited, reposting things, and why not? I've looked at that Chicho Arango goal 30 times.
I rewatched all the goals again multiple times in preparation for this, but every time I watch it, I find like little new tidbits. Because a lot of the goals were long passing sequences of goals, Chicho's notwithstanding, but that was just incredible. I like watching that more to see how all the reactions of the celebrations are.
I did all the reactions, and there was like Chicho got there, and obviously he embraced his family, but there were some supporters who I recognized kind of getting in on the celebration. And it's like, I wasn't going to be judgmental. I was going to be envious, if anything, because what a great moment to have, and so many people will have those moments. And that's what it's all about, right? Regardless of what happens, to be at that stadium on a day like that, and you carry that forever. I guarantee you. So you certainly appreciate
Chris
it.
Bought tickets. He called me leading into the week before we knew who the opponent would be. He said, "Man, I want to get tickets. I'm probably going to go alone though. So should I get tickets in the North End?" I go, "Well, if you get tickets in the North End, you won't be alone." Because you'll make friends, you'll have a great time. You don't need to worry about sitting alone. He goes, okay. Then he's like, I don't know, it's $200. And then right after the Galaxy won, I just text him. I go, prices are going up, and they did. But he decided to get one, and I ran into him before the game. And Albert, good friend Albert, out there in the North End, I said, just stick with this guy, and you'll be fine. And he took care of my buddy, brought him out front. He was like front row, hanging out in the 3252 in the North End. Oh no. You guys can't see it because the way cameras
Well, he can
work.
pop over here in a second.
But yeah, he could pop over here in a second and introduce himself.
Yes, if he wants to come over.
But he had a great time. That was the moral of the story.
Yeah.
The way people take care of each other, and like you said, kind of he was not so sure if he wanted to be there. Now it's a memory he'll never forget.
I was with my wife, who doesn't come to every game. We're down there with the 2-1 goal and then the 3-2 goal, and we're like embracing, jumping with other people we knew, complete strangers. It was fantastic. So you won't lose that. That's when you come in early on that foundation. That's part of the build. And with the Galaxy game, we knew it would be excruciating. It would be. It was. back and forth, even just the way the Galaxy played, controlling possession, which I remember I was sitting next to you and we looked at each other and go, wait a minute. It's not supposed to go that way, but they did. The good news is that LAFC were never in peril of losing that game. They always had their noses in front, or at very worst, were tied. So in that case, you could say they had some of that control, but the ability to find a way, and in particular, and I think the launching point is Denis Bouanga, who has been much celebrated. We've been here going, it's going to happen for Denny. It's going to happen. You just see him all the time. You know it's going to the breakthrough. And it happened, 2 goals, and then involved on the game winner as well.
Yeah, I would like to take a lot of credit for the big game Bouanga. But I always believed in him. I've been telling you guys since he showed up, this guy is incredible. He has the tools. Yes, he might start a little slower than people would want him to. I think the stat was 1 goal in 7 games when he got here, but you could see it. It's about, like I keep saying, it's chance creation. It's the things that you do day in and day out. Yes, goals will come for the most part. I know we brought it up in LAFC 360, the Kevin Cabral comparisons,
yeah.
Which I don't think are fair to either Kevin Cabral or Denis Bouanga. But it's fun. But it was there. It was always there. We knew that he was going to be a winger that was going to tear up this league because he had all the tools. He had the physicality. He had the elusiveness. He has the speed to get by guys. And then the finishing. It's just the cherry on top.
Yeah. I love how the LAFC social media handles, they all keep receipts. And then when the Denis Bouanga game, Matt Doyle had that comparison. You heard it, and that's fun. We're happy you have fun. That's the clout you get when the club you support wins. Denis Bouanga also, and we said this on LAFC 360, you got to be careful about the tags you give and say the most important player, but there was a void for LAFC. They pretty much had all the things. They had a goal scorer, they had the creative element, they had the width. Mm-hmm. They didn't have the vertical player like they had with Diego Rossi, and then he just fits it seamlessly. They're not the same player, but they do a lot of the similar things, attacking defenders at pace. And because of that, that's the most singularly, I think, important role. That role, because it opens up. But it opens up a lot of other players.
Well, you just kind of like backtracked on your own opinion.
I know, but I said it's all about semantics. I said he's not the most important player, but that role could be the most.
I think you just have to fill certain lanes and you have to unbalance a defense. And without that, you cannot really unbalance a defense. Because if they know they can always play, you're always going to play in front of them, they can always stay in line. But if realistically you have a guy that plays vertical and can break that line of 4, that's when all sorts of problems start to pop up, whether it's in front of the defense, behind the defense, around the corners, that type of thing. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying you said can't say one person singular and then brought it back.
But we should disagree. That's part of the podcast. You want to see more disagreement.
Since when?
People want to see us go after it. We're always so pleasant with each other. I think it's a good time to just go, the heck with you, Vince.
Well, look,
you're crazy. That's the worst take I've ever heard.
If they ultimately succeed this year, maybe next year, you and I become full heels and just tag team partners, just going at it, never agreeing on anything.
Yeah. We're getting late. We're obviously getting to Austin FC preview mode, but with one thing else about the Galaxy, and we said I said it was the singularly most important, but everyone kind of played their role. There is still such a high ceiling for this team. And I certainly feel that they will hit that at some point. I'll talk to that in a moment. But there's still room for improvement here. The Galaxy, we talked about the midfield. The midfield was chasing a fair bit. They certainly would like to get a little more control on the offensive side of the midfield play. Defensively, I thought they were good. They didn't give a lot of shots up, but they did allow 2 goals. And there's things I know that with 10 days between games, Steve Cherundolo will be looking at and saying, we can get this. It must be a coach's dream. You get the result, obviously, in a very nerve-wracking game, but then you have some stuff to take away that you can certainly show, look, we do this and this. No one's going to touch us.
Yeah, it was important you said control. And there's 2 ways to look at this. When we saw that Galaxy had a lot of possession, you and I first looked at it and were like, this is just weird.
Odd, yeah.
We're not used to it. But I guess the other way to look at it is they didn't create a lot of big chances out of it, though. So LAFC found a way, despite not being able to play what they might think is their game model, to find a bit of control. And I think that's the biggest point that we walked away from that was like, that's not an LAFC game that we're used to, yet somehow they found a way to be the most dangerous team despite not having the ball, to be the most dangerous team despite not being able to press quite as well as they normally do. I know the second goal is basically the LAFC we're used to. They pressed, they lose the ball, they regain possession, they go right back and they attack them quick. But other than that, there wasn't really any of those moments. They weren't connecting passes quite the same. So I think there's different ways you can have control, but I think maybe this was more of a self-control and the ability to say, maybe it's not our day in this way, but let's not beat ourselves because the worst thing you can do is when your press isn't working to just extend yourself and open yourself up, because the Galaxy would have carved you up. Ricky Puig would have carved you up, and they did not do that. I mean, Puig and Chicharito, non-factors.
It was, yeah, that's very true. Other than that, I mean, the Galaxy got to give them credit for the way they did. I said, all right, they played this way against Nashville. They were at home. They were the higher seed. Now they're going to play at LAFC. Do they change it? And they
didn't play scared.
They didn't. They were aggressive at the risk of making some mistakes. They didn't lose the ball. LAFC also didn't make any of those big mistakes that would have opened up an opportunity, which they've done historically against the Galaxy, but they were watertight on that front. But you give the Galaxy some credit, certainly, from being able to dictate the way they were able to do, and LAFC held firm. It's an interesting, broader conversation because we knew what the LAFC identity was, but we've seen so many different LAFCs just in the last month.
A lot of different ways to win, which
resourceful, practical teams.
Great as that 2019 team was, they did not have as many tools in their toolbox as I think this team does.
So there you have it. Enjoy the Galaxy game. You'll have it forever, just like 2019. But now, remember, just 2 playoff.
But it would be that much better if they took the next step after it.
Now you have just the second playoff victory in club history, and now they're in the Western Final. Now, the big difference from when they did this in 2019, we've talked about it before, there was 4 days between games. It was the first time you got the Galaxy, and we've talked to a lot of folks around LAFC, and they said, that it's impossible to say that didn't take a lot to do and to turn around in 4 days. Well, now you have 10 days, and you're not playing a Sounders team that you have a little more history with. You're playing Austin FC, which you do have a recent history that you were getting at it. So we won't talk about that again. If LAFC do not advance, then that's obviously off the books, but I get the feeling 10 days, and just being here and you feel a calm again before a game, it feels like a normal game week, would be advantageous.
Feel a little bit looser. They were able to take 2 days off after the Galaxy game, which I'm sure they all needed. They trained Sunday, Monday. They're training today, which is Tuesday. They'll have another day off, and then training leading all the way up into the game. So that 4 day, that lack of rest that you were just talking about, is non-factor completely. And they do feel looser. I think there's
But days off sprinkled in there. It's like these are all planned. What they do here about what they eat, how they rest, what they should do. They have this whole week to kind of go. Perfect. Let's put it into as prime optimal position for this team.
And it allowed guys to get back into training. As Steve said, he expected Giorgio Chiellini and Gareth Bale to be back in training, which would make them fully available. So availability is probably the most important part about all this.
So many options. On a day against the Galaxy where really for the first time in a while, LAFC didn't splurge into the bench. But they have that in their toolkit, certainly. They didn't have to do it as much here, but they still got some impact there, obviously with Carlos Vela coming off. And we saw Mahala come in and shortly thereafter scoring the goal, and then they scored again. So they played the right tones.
The XG of the team when Mahala came in, it skyrocketed.
Do you have like an XG app? You just go like this, you point it at somebody and go...
Luckily...
That'd be awesome. Somebody build that in Silicon Valley. I want a piece of it, though.
They do have one. It's called like the race.
Okay, never mind.
It's pretty cool, but it's usually only available to stats guys. And luckily, we have a good relationship with the numbers guy Scott here at LAFC, and he sends me after the game will send me kind of the chart. And LAFC was always higher in XG. They were creating more chances. Galaxy's, if you think about the Galaxy's goals, that Grand Sear goal, pretty low quality chance he scores. Joveljic goal, pretty good low quality chance, but Joveljic is quality. But LAFC was creating chances, but I'm telling you, the second that they made that sub, it skyrocketed, and they just chance after chance after chance. Obviously, when you get a tap in from 5 yards out, that's a pretty high quality chance.
Yeah. Football in LA is in good hands because this is, I think, these two teams, LAFC and Galaxy, will be back in the postseason again next year and looking each other dead in the eye, and that's good for the city. That's good for the league. So we look forward to that.
Especially because they're going to play each other 3 times.
Yeah, at the Rose Bowl in the opener. Like I said, Keith Jackson here at the Rose Bowl. The Ducks of Oregon taking on the Buckeyes of Ohio State. Not everyone.
John Thornton passed by.
John Thornton with the cap. You don't see it as much. It's a hot day.
Yeah.
He looks great. He's the best, JT. So now let's talk about Austin FC. They had to get by. They played 2 games in the playoffs. Trailed Real Salt Lake, came back to beat them. So they did it one way. They did that at home. Then they got off to the quick start against FC Dallas for comprehensive and held on 2-1. But it was much. I don't think it was even that close. Austin really performed as well as they have since they beat LAFC 4-1 back at the end of August. And this is a team coming in with ambition. This is really their first playoff run, just their second season of existence. These are the best two teams in the West all season. That's the final two, which is you don't get to say a lot about the MLS Cup playoffs. It's going to be an interesting game. They have a lot of game winners, and we saw that. Sebastian Driussi obviously is a name that comes to mind. I thought he played his best game in a couple months because everyone's saying he's the MVP, and then he kind of disappeared.
Stagnated a little bit, and Honey took off.
Yeah, and it's about being in a hot form. Diego Fagundes is a consistently excellent player you will have, and as you also mentioned, the goalkeeping is very good. So this team deserves to be here.
Yeah, they have, you could say the front four is very good. Obviously, Driussi and Fagundes are pivotal players, and they can create something out of nothing. This team really kind of outperforms. It creates chances. They're dangerous, but, man, they're finishers. And as we talk about, goals change games, and they change games by scoring. They don't really do much else. They want to get a little bit of possession, and I know Josh Wolf always preaches that, but realistically, it's about Fagundes and Driussi creating big chances and finishing them off. You could maybe even add it into a front six because Ring is very good as a late arriving player in the box. I think Pereira has shown that he can do some things, and that's an MLS Super Draft guy.
Yeah,
actually doing some things out there.
Things fell well for this club. I mean, all these things. I mean, you would have never thought Pereira would have had that kind of impact. You would have never thought Diego Fagundes would have revived his career. And Driussi, you knew he was going to get better, but this much better.
Yeah.
And the MVP candidate, you couldn't predict it. So everything hit.
Yeah. So they have game changers, but they also have a great goalie because they do give up quite a lot of chances. Because the one thing you and I looked at, and this is not to slight Austin FC, although they do love a slight that they can use in their. We're not.
It's working for them.
Luckily, we're not laminated in any of those predictions. But the back
four. Where
four.
would you have picked Austin if you got to predict preseason in the West?
I thought they were okay. I would have picked them maybe just outside of the playoffs.
Wow,
but not
much higher than everyone else.
Not lower.
12th,
not
11th.
that low. Yeah, I would have said maybe 8th, maybe slipping in. But they obviously proved me very much wrong. But honestly, look at the back four. I would say the fullbacks are workmanlike. They get at it. Center backs, Cascante is physical.
Workmanlike.
Yeah, I mean, again, they do give up a lot of chances, but Brad Stuver is then back there, and as you know, goals change games, so do saving for sure goals, and Stuver can save a for sure goal
Won
for
a
you.
penalty shootout. Yep. Convincingly against Real Salt Lake.
So what you got to do is you got to keep them you got to keep them tight, which LAFC has proven if they can get into a half at 1-1, 0-0, then they can make adjustments, make the substitutions that matter because their talent level I think is already higher than this Austin team, but then the bench is that another step above. Or you just finish your chances and then kind of crush their will. I don't know how LAFC is going to go about it, but having lost to them twice, I think they're going to come out with a certain level of intensity. I feel like it's got to be measured intensity. You go too far forward, all brakes, no gas. Sebastian Driussi will end up popping up behind you, and he does not miss.
This is a team that's obviously had that great home field advantage. They used it to their benefit in the playoffs, but they've been good on the road, as Vince touched on. They hung the first home loss on LAFC earlier this season 2-1, which LAFC had a claim to that. Got a lot of good chances, weren't able to convert. The second game in Austin, and as Steve Cherundolo told us after it happened, was they didn't want to run that day. So that was that one game where the team just didn't.
They didn't, and he also said that
sometimes you wake up, you don't feel it, right?
They got a dose of their own medicine, where the team kind of overran them, and they had an intensity to where every mistake was then turned into a big opportunity.
So there you have it. They score a lot of goals, and I think you put a good description on this team. Sunday, noon Pacific time for the kickoff. That was the.
Is that where you at all?
It's going to be a cool afternoon. After the magic of the night, you were hoping that they could recreate that. But either window, I don't think would have had it 7 o'clock at night where it would have been great. That was just magic. Maybe a little bit, but that's ABC is going to be showing that game, which is great news for LAFC, a much bigger audience. They got first dibs. They picked this game. But that's neither here nor there. It's about this game as well. Now, when I talk about Austin FC, and I said this earlier, I look at this game and I kept saying LAFC we know they have that gear where everything clicks, and we haven't seen that all season.
Yeah, 90-minute performance.
90-minute performance. The really good chances all go in, very like a slave or a save or a deflection or a post hit. I'm feeling this might be it, Vince. I'm feeling this might be the day.
Well, what a time to do it.
Where the 90 minutes all click into place. Everything's coming together, fully loaded, healthy. They got by the rivalry game unscathed, and now they had those 10 days to get ready for it.
I mean, they should have the confidence to do it, right? Like, everything is now in place to do it. Like we said, guys are getting healthy. They'll have the time to rest and get their legs underneath them. I'm with you. I think it might
But
take.
I'm talking big.
I'm
not talking 2-1.
But it really might take that, though. Where, like, Austin is a good team, and even if you do put a 90-minute performance and you run out of there 4-0 winners.
That's what I was thinking.
That's what you're thinking.
4-1.
4-1.
I'm getting in trouble for that. I just got to know, man. Just sometimes to get those come in. I haven't had this prior.
I'll give my prediction before Ilie gets here because he's not gonna
Don't tell him what I said.
I'm gonna say 2-1.
2-1. Safe. I said 1-0 for the.
You did. And I said 3-2.
I said because there was only 8 shots, it wasn't far-fetched that it was a 1-goal game.
That's fair.
But when Giorgio, who told me about the Derby games, wasn't playing, then it made sense. He wasn't. There you have it. So Sunday we'll get to go it. Other side, Philadelphia, New York City FC. LAFC wins. They host MLS Cup November the 5th at Bank of California Stadium. And you can only imagine what that means for the club. 3 home playoff games to excite the base, pay for the stadium, gets all that stuff matters. This is the envy of the league.
Yeah.
You have these playoff games, which is it's a business as well, right?
It'll be an epic MLS Cup final, and I'm sure MLS is looking
also a day game
to it. Possibly, yes, that would also be
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, yeah. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Once you're there, you don't care.
You enjoyed the playoffs? Was good. This conference.
The playoffs has
been
been
really
very good. Well, we talked about it on LAFC 360. When you've got the 1 versus 2 in the West, and then 1 versus 3 in the 3, as you pointed out, is the reigning champions. Can't really ask for a better Final Four there.
Yeah, you get a Philly-New York rivalry kind of game there, which they do certainly
get
and flowing
after
there.
the
and
COVID.
After the history that they've had, yeah. So this is really good. This is a league you get pandemonium, you get lower seeds, and I don't want to disrespect Real Salt Lake Run or Portland coming out of the 5 spot, but once in a while at least you want this, and it's so rare that it happens. The last time, I think I said it here, was 2003, a 1 versus 1, and that could happen. It's at least you're a heavy favorite. Philadelphia are a favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when I talk to more and more people, they don't go, yeah, it's going to be a crazy year. They kind of go, no, this is the way it's supposed to happen, and so far it's happened that way.
It has been a chalky year.
Chalky?
It felt like it. It's felt like the teams that were the good teams, which I think all 4 of these are very good teams, just were kind of head and shoulders above the rest of the pack. Even though, like an RSL punched above their weight a little bit. I think Cincinnati's greatly improved and punched above their weight a little bit. But ultimately, the talent, not just in the starting 11, but then the coaching staffs and then the depth is shining through in this year in MLS.
It's a great year in MLS. Think about it. Toronto FC with the $14 million player didn't even sniff the playoffs. Atlanta United, the benchmark club that spans, and they're going to again, didn't make the playoffs. Seattle, Portland, all a Cascadia out.
Atlanta United might have a player on the Argentinian national team at the World Cup.
Unbelievable. We'll be right back. We'll be joined by Ilia Sanchez here on Inside LAFC. We'll get his thoughts about Galaxy, and we'll look ahead to Austin FC. The Inside LAFC MVP podcast. Rate, review, download, subscribe. Tell a friend. We'll be back. We are back here inside LAFC, the MVP podcast. Thrilled to welcome back Ilie Sanchez here preparing for Austin FC. We want to talk about Austin again. We know you guys are geared up for this game. But let's talk about the Galaxy. It's just an incredible night. I saw you for a moment down there at the field level and just all this cathartic moment for so many people. What was it like for you, obviously going in preparation-wise and then the payoff at the end once you heard the final whistle?
Well, I think that it was a great night for all of us, and mainly because we were better as a team, as a club, as an organization, managing our emotions and our feelings heading into the game, during the game, and probably after the game with our celebration. We were very happy. But you could tell that in all our minds, the job is not done yet. So great night for LAFC people, but with our minds on the next challenges.
Okay, just to follow up, did you learn that from the earlier games with the Galaxy? Maybe let's go back to that first one where we knew it was a bunch of new players, and I talked to you and said, we got to win this game. And
I wouldn't say it's because we've played them several times this season and we've learned how to play them, but I would say that it's because the ideas and the methodology that Steve had for this team, and the way that we've been training, the exercises during training, the talks, the messages that he has been sending throughout the season. Now, I don't know how to say it in English, but are paying off. You know, we are getting all those together for us to be able to perform as he expects the team to do.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because Max and I, in the first segment, we talked about kind of how that game didn't look the way we thought an LAFC Galaxy game would look when we think about the two styles. We know the Galaxy really want to possess the ball, but you don't normally let teams kind of move the ball the way you did. So when the game doesn't go to script, is the bigger story the fact that you guys were able to still step up in moments and find that quality in moments? Is that what we should be taking away from this game, was LAFC can win even when plan A maybe isn't quite working? Or what did you feel from that?
I think that we've played the game we had to. We've prepared the game for different outcomes during the game. And at the end, we have the players. This team has been built for this moment. So we have the players that can decide the game for us. Knowing that as a player and from kind of the back of the field, gives you confidence, keeps you alive, no matter what you have in front or no matter what's going on during the 90 minutes. Because you know that some of your teammates in front will decide and will call it game for the team.
And how often do you, I mean, you've been in this league.
Some high, that's a high.
It
Feels like it's right on top
I know,
of
it does
us.
feel like it's right here. It's a big week. We're Western Conference Final. They're trying to get all,
It's for you, Ilie.
all the intel they can.
Thank you.
It's for you. It's a little surprise. We want
I love it.
But you've been in this league, obviously, with Kansas City in 2018. You went to the Western Conference Finals, a two-leg final, so it's different, a little bit different. But how often do you get a team where they can shift gears and still be able to find the solution? Is it something that is
No, it's a special.
just something like that, or is it special?
It's a special. I had been part of this league for 5 years with one of the best teams in the league, and not just because of the organization, but also because of the teams that we had for every season. 3 years I've been in this exact situation with all the games in the playoff at home, final included, to win it all. And I have 0 MLS caps. So for me, what we have in this club and with this team, it's a very strong group with high quality individualities that can make the difference in these moments.
And just to follow up on that, and you kind of answered, but forgive me for almost repeating it, but we watched that game and we expected LAFC to possess. Galaxy possessed earlier, but there was no panic. LAFC, you kind of still go, okay, this is the game it's going to be. We will adapt. You feel like you guys can do, we've seen it many times successfully, that you guys can do that in any game and can play almost any kind of game depending on the opponent.
Our game model tells that we want to create chances. Possession, it's something secondary or something that we want to do to be able to get more and more and more chances. But if we don't have, or we don't win the possession battle, but we have 5 more chances or 10 more chances than the opponent, that's the way we want to do it. Because we know that as many chances as we have, our players don't need too many to be able to score. So that's the way we want to play, and that's the way we think it will get us closer to the win.
So now you move into the Western Conference Final against Austin. You want to talk about difference makers. They have a couple of game changers in Fagundes, Driussi. They have a hot goalkeeper as well. So you didn't play in that game in Austin. And then when we think back to the game at home, that was all the way back in May, and it was just like a totally different time period. So what do you take going into this game? What do you take from those prior games? What is the kind of mindset for you?
And I think that obviously the results didn't go our way, and I would say that we want to forget that, but it's totally the opposite. We want to have that in our minds, or we had that in our minds, because we can learn a lot from what happened in those games. The first one at home, I think that we were the better team. We played with a different lineup, but we still performed. All our players played very well that night. We just were not lucky enough with some details. We gave up 2 goals, and that's a lot if you want to win the game. But still, some of the calls didn't go our way, and I think that overall we created so many chances for us to have been able to win the game. The game in Austin was different. I think that also some calls didn't go our way early in the game, but we need to understand that they were better, and they were better because they did what we knew they were gonna do, and we just couldn't do it. When we do what we can do, what we expect or the coach expects us to do, I think that there is no team in this league that can beat us at home, especially.
That was a different time. I mean, when that result 4-1 happened, everyone was going, "Oh, Austin's going to get LAFC. Philadelphia's the best team in MLS." Well, we're here in LAFC, got the supporter shield, and when you look back at that game or those conversations, what comes to mind? Obviously, it's a rivalry now. That's because they beat you twice in the season. But when you look at the final whistle of that game and what you take away from that, and what you did do correctly to get things back on the rails for LAFC.
The difference I've experienced in this team this season compared to the other teams I've been part of is that here in LAFC we compete week after week against ourselves. If we can improve the next week and be better than the week before and keep doing that consistently, that's our plan, and that's what we have in our minds, and that's what it got us the supporter shield, and hopefully it will get us the MLS Cup. If we can maintain that level of
Intensity, focus.
concentration, focus, if we can demand ourselves always the highest, is what will make us successful again.
It's easier said than done, but you've got to maintain that.
Exactly. I mean,
I know you
you
say
have to
that,
do
but
it.
you've got to.
You have to come here
Yeah.
every day and try to execute what the coach has prepared for the team.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's harder than others, and all that, having a game in the weekend that you have to be prepared for. So.
Well, I know that you guys take on all comers, so it doesn't really matter the opponent, and especially at home. You know that you're going to have the crowd behind you, that you're going to have to bring a level of intensity that's going to meet their expectations at home. But the numbers say 1 versus 2. So are these the 2 best teams in the West? Beyond the numbers, and how much does that excite you? Because I know sometimes, and I hate this expression, the trap game. But let's imagine, if an underdog had slipped in there, maybe you feel like emotionally you lower a little bit, but there's no way you could do that here knowing it's the top 2 dogs. Does that get you more excited, more keyed up for a game?
I think that that's something tough to respond because you never know the answer, but we've seen throughout the season that we struggled with the teams that were on the bottom of the table. So I don't know if that's because we lower a little bit the focus or the intensity. I don't think so. I want to believe that Sunday, when it matters, we all will show up as a team, and that someone is going to make the difference for us to advance to the next round.
You said you've been in this position before and you haven't got to the final step. But I mean, 2018, you the top seed, Sporting Kansas City, lost to a lower seed in Portland. And obviously I know that stays with you, but what you think about that and maybe what you can share with your teammates about what to do, what didn't work. Do you catalog those things a bit, knowing that you've gone through those experiences and how you can learn from them here and on Sunday?
So I had that in 2018. I had top seed in 2020. Minnesota knocked us out in 20 minutes, 3-0 at home. And then last year we didn't finish first, but somehow the playoff presented us the opportunity to have all the way home games, final included, because I think Philly lost and then Colorado lost also first round. And Salt Lake knocked us out in the 90-plus minute at home again. So I don't think I have to share that with my teammates. Maybe with the players that are new in this league, try to just keep them on their toes. But believe me, having a coach like Steve and the messages that he sends at the time, with the timing that he does send those messages, it's more than enough for us to be ready and prepared for Sunday.
You still have some young players, though, and I'm wondering this because I've had a couple people tell me sometimes the semifinal's harder than the final because you're just that one step closer. Once you get into the final, maybe you just kind of, we're here, we made it, we deserve to be here. But the semifinals where you don't want to mess up because you're just that one step away. Is there any kind of advice that Steve has either given you or you have for the young players to just kind of leave it all out there? And because you don't want to be in that position where you said, we should have been in the final, especially when it can be at home.
As I see it, is that winning on Sunday, we lift the trophy, which is the Western Conference champion. You still have a celebration. You have a trophy that you can touch, that you can lift. So that should be enough motivation for us heading to that game. Because then that will also give you the opportunity to lift the bigger one. But being Western Conference champion, again, 5 years in this league, 3 times all the way games at home, and I'm not Western Conference champion. I've won the league in the regular season in the West, but you don't lift the trophy for that. You lift the supporter shield because it's with both conferences. But to add another trophy, have another photo with your teammates, with the people that help you win and achieve that, should be enough motivation for the group.
Those photos in the locker room where you're all together, those are very special. I get goosebumps when I see them, and I say, I wish I could be in there. But I'm busy doing, Seth stopped me doing that.
Oh, yeah, that's why you're not.
So I'd be down there.
Why you're not in there.
Calm down when we win on Sunday. And also not just with all of us that we are here every day, but also having the background of the 32-52, of the full crowd. Those videos and pictures that we saw from past games of the full stadium when we scored the goals. That's a pretty good feeling and motivation to have for the next 2 games.
Do you get anything beating the Galaxy? Do you get a better parking spot at your favorite restaurant, or is it has your LA privilege has gotten better? And
No, I actually went out for dinner with one of their players. And
all right.
I was going to ask, how did you let Victor know that
yes.
you're moving on and he's...
No, he was leaving on Monday, and we just had dinner together because we respect each other, we loved each other, and I actually think that they played very, very well.
Yeah.
So he deserved me to invite him for a good dinner.
Well,
that's
and
great.
say bye.
Wait, one more question about the Galaxy. I have to ask you, in those opening minutes when there was the bit of controversy and you ran over, did you talk to Ricky in Spanish or Catalan?
No, I didn't talk to him at that
okay.
exact moment. I think it's a red card, so there is nothing I have to say to the opponent. I have to see what my player, how my player is feeling, like Muri at that time, and if so, tell the referee what I've seen with that play. But I think that he knows that he made a mistake. Luckily for him, he stayed on the field, and I think he played a very good game. He's a great player, and he helped his team improved a lot, not just with his plays, but also with his positioning, with his attitude. So maybe that attitude is what put him in that tough spot, because he could have been sent out after that header to Muri. So now I talked to him before the game. He came to introduce himself in Catalan. So yeah, that's where we are from, and that's the language that we.
I know that's
we
important
speak.
too. So
Yes, yes.
I won that.
It was nice for him to come and to introduce himself in Catalan, and to have a brief chat before the game.
It's beautiful, and we should have more Catalan players because they bring such quality.
Well, it's
That was a great
incredible.
game. That was a great game for Los Angeles. It was a great game for the league.
I'm assuming Victor speaks Catalan as
Victor
well.
speaks Catalan.
We have three guys in all the way across the world
And
speaking
Tello,
Catalan together.
Christian Tello speaks Catalan, and Enrique Duran,
And Enrique.
the coach, speaks Catalan too. So
We got to be playing Joan Manuel Serrat here. We can
Yes.
get the guitar out. I know a couple songs. My dad used to listen to them all the time. So I listen.
and that you that speak Spanish, your next challenge could be to learn a few words in Catalan. And
Between that and him giving me some recommendations, I could have a very good Barcelona trip. Not just Barcelona, but Tarragona and all the
yeah,
places.
Girona,
Let's go. We
Tarragona,
keep talking about this
everything.
Max and Vince world,
right.
world tour. Let's go. And let's make Barcelona destination number 1.
Sunday, midday, ABC for the game. We expect all you guys to be there at the stadium, too. He's going to lift his trophy. We're going to see you out there, and we're going to have another magic day for LAFC. Thanks for tuning in to Inside LAFC, Max and Vince podcast. Thanks, as always, to Ilia Sanchez, who's so gracious. And by the way, great answers to all the questions, so thoughtful.
Guess number 1.
Guess number one, numero
Top of
one.
the list. Top of the team sheet.
Thank you.
Of course, Vince. We'll see you soon. Make sure you take care of the podcast and recommend it to your friends. We'll see you soon.